Welcome to another episode of Mysteries Unknown. Guys, I've got one of the strangest episodes that I've had on this podcast so far. I got a guy, and he likes to go by the name of Steamboat, on the show with me tonight. And he's on a property in Texas, and on this property, he has been chased by what he describes as some kind of falk-type monster. Had multiple Class A Bigfoot sightings. He's had things thrown at him. You name it, it's happened on this property. We're going to get into all of this, but this night in particular, he's going to talk about absolutely changed his life. He was riding a motorcycle, come upon this creature that was hunched down on the side of the road, and this thing chased after him and changed his life forever. This one gets really strange. We're going to dive into all of that. But before I do, I just want to say thank you for being here and hanging out with me tonight. If you've got a mystery and encounter you would like to send me, you can always send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. But let's jump right into the story. Steamboat, welcome to the show.
Well, I'm very glad to be here. I'm honored to be a guest on your show.
Well, man, I'm really glad that you're here, and I know that there's a lot to unpack. So why don't you start at the very beginning and kind of walk us through these encounters?
It's just been a journey, what I've been through with this topic and all that. But I'm Steamboat, and right now I'm at Lake Patman in Texas at Jackson Creek. I grew up in the Dallas area, and I came out here to East Texas, and I was the one that would joke around about Sasquatch or Bigfoot. You know what I mean? I was kind of scared whenever my grandpa would take me out there and be like, I'm gonna leave you right here because they see the Bigfoot all the time, and I wouldn't really believe it, but if he would have left me there, I would have been scared, you know. And but the very first time I saw one, it walked across my mom's yard in 2021, and I didn't really believe my eyes right then. I was like, I don't know, man. So it walked around the back of the barn, and then when it was back there, it made a scream like something dying or something like that. And we said it killed something, but I think that it was a female, and I think that the female might have gotten excited to see humans and screamed out of excitement maybe or something, but I'm not sure if she was trying to lure us or not. But it sounded like a woman dying. But that time was the first eye sighting I had of what you call a Sasquatch. Now, when that same creature has had some other instances. My mother's chickens, she had 9 chickens. They all got took in about 30 seconds or less. They heard some commotion. They ran back there. Before they got back, all the chickens were dead. There was 2 of them laying outside the coop, and the top of the door had been punched in on the chicken coop, and something reached in there and grabbed 9 chickens out and was shredding them up, running back towards the woods. And that was probably the same creature. But I saw one over there in the same area right there by my mom's house. About 2 or 3 months ago, I was coming in on the motorcycle, and I saw its eyes across the street, across the highway from the house, and I knew what it was when I saw it. And if this thing was, I mean, it had to be 5 or 6 feet wide, and it was hiding behind a 18-inch wide pine tree, and it was looking around the pine tree like like that, and you could see its mouth was real big, and it was kind of drooped down, but it had like tusk or teeth that come up like that, and it was brown, like light brown, and had a big ridge on its eyebrow and all that. But this thing was solid and huge and no neck. Everywhere I've gone, I've had instances like this. It's been like hitchhiker effect. And back to what happened in December 21st of 22, I got chased on my motorcycle on the other side of the lake, right over here on Lake Patman at Elliott Bluff. And it took me about a week to get the courage up to call the game warden and tell them what happened, but I told them what happened. And he asked me if it was a werewolf or, um, something like a dog man or something like that. And then I ended up hearing from him not too long after that he said a orthopedic surgeon from or a doctor from Texarkana was down here, I guess, eating lunch or something at the same area that I got chased, and he saw a 6 foot tall, hairy creature with pointed ears walking down the right of way for the electricity power lines, and I was like, that could have been what it was that chased me because I don't know if you had seen the picture of my background on YouTube. My Steamboat TX, my channel has the actual night vision of the Sasquatch or whatever that was that chased me. I can't say that it was a Sasquatch because it was a different type. It was I would say it was the Boggy Creek monster because I just remember it was a monster. That's
You got to back up right there, man, because that is that's really incredible. And I know there's a lot to unpack so far, but man, start from the beginning of that story that night. What happened, man? How did you get to that point? And just kind of walk us through that.
okay. The one where I was face to face with the Elliott Bluff. This was, believe, a Wednesday night, December 21st. I was working at a local pizza place, and we had a early Christmas party thing after work, and we were all up there, all the workers, and having a good time. And I said, you know what? I had just bought another motorcycle or traded one in and got a nice. It was a 2010 Ultra Limited Harley Davidson with the blue and purple chameleon paint, and it was a nice bike. And I had only drove it to work and back because I had only had it for about a week. And I said, well, before it gets real cold, because it was supposed to be a cold front coming through after that night. I said, I'm going to go out there to the spillway out at the lake. So I was riding, and I ended up going around the long way, and I went up past the boat or past the dam. And if you looked at the map on there, it's got a little strip of land in between the dam and the spillway and all that. It goes down to a boat ramp that goes out into the water. It's Elliott Bluff, and it it's got probably a quarter mile wide by a mile and a half or so long of woods out there. And I still to this day get scared going in those woods. Um, right now, I'm not very scared here where I'm at right now on the lake because I've camped right here and I've heard vocalizations from right here. But one, let me keep on track. I'll tell you more about this spot, but let me keep on track. So that thing, I was coming down the road. It was all dark, and I had lights all the way around that bike. It was all lit up, and I could see, oh, up in the middle of the road there was like a trash bag looking thing, and I was like, that's weird. Something's in the middle of the road. Well, I got closer, and it looked like a man in a ghillie suit, and I was like, well, maybe this guy's hurt because he was all crunched over like this, facing away from me, and I was like, I don't know. I pulled right up next to it. By the time I pulled up next to it, I noticed that wasn't a ghillie suit and that there was something wrong with this person. I noticed that when when I pulled up, it had like matted up, nasty hair and just mud and like just every moss and everything looked and it just looked like it was rolling around in the mud out there. And I got maybe, I mean, it could have reached out and grabbed me like Mike Tyson did him last night or whatever. That thing could have got me. Uh, he he looked up at me and we were, I mean, on the motorcycle, I was still in first gear, and I had the clutch in, and I had maybe 1 foot down at the moment, but it looked up at me and it made eye contact, and I just remember it was just as scared as I was, and I screamed, and I just I hit the gas, and I let that clutch out, and I got out of there. Well, I remember I was looking back the whole time. I was looking at it, and it was chasing me on all fours. It was reaching and grabbing the ground like that and running at the same time with its back legs. And I was like, oh my gosh, because this thing turned into something that, I mean, its head, it looked like it when it was happening, when it opened its mouth, I said it looked like it could have crushed a cantaloupe with its mouth. Like that's how big its mouth looked when it opened its mouth. But this thing was huge, and its eyes were far apart, but dark black, like the whole part. And it ran with superhuman power. It was almost like it was gripping the ground whenever it ran. It was that fast. It was like, how is it even going this fast? And I got into second gear, and I hit it, and I was looking back at that moment. I saw him trail off into the woods right there, um, at Elliott Bluff. But that's where I went back, and I borrowed some night vision, and I got some night vision stuff on my channel and all that. Like the background picture is an actual picture of the thing that chased me, whatever it is. I mean, it was more ape than dog, I would say, but still, it didn't look like the Patterson film. But the one at my mom's house looked exactly like the Patterson film, real dark, shiny coat, and her her shoulder was well over our pool fence out there that I could see. She was probably 9 or 8 feet tall, maybe 9 feet tall. And I don't know. I've found so much evidence now that if any, oh yeah, my fire just lit up for you there. But if any logical scientists would come out here in the woods for a night and come out here in the daytime and look around for footprints and look around for evidence, I promise you, they're going to leave this place, um, knowing, uh, it's getting
You
hard for me
know,
to believe that these people are so closed-minded. They can't even hear you talk about it.
I have to tell you, I've heard a lot of encounters, and that is extremely scary, being that close to something and that thing to take off and chase you like that, man. That's insane, and there's a lot to unpack. And I wanna go back to your first encounter, but before I do that, man, how did that encounter impact your life, man? After having something that traumatic, man, in what ways did that affect you?
It affected every aspect of my life. It it affected my work. It affected my home life. I have gone out and spent thousands and thousands of miles on these motorcycles riding around this lake, wondering if I'll ever see what I saw again, and I have. And that's why I'm saying, if somebody comes out here with an open eye and with a mentality that, maybe we have been lied to our whole life and all that, you can come out here and find the evidence yourself. I mean, it's not hard to find. Um, but there's been instances that, like that that time that I had the interview, I told the truth, but I left one part out. And I'm talking about an interview that I had on Sasquatch Theory, and it was about a year and a half ago, maybe. It's had a lot of views and stuff, and I was honest about everything. But the only part that I did leave out was when the creature, when the this is the weird part, and this is what makes me feel like I'm not going to be credible after this if I say this. It makes this to me is like, I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about because I don't understand it. this creature turned into like a hoofed animal with horns and long legs when it was on the grass, when it jumped from the road to the grass. And I never told the game warden this. And I mean, I'm sorry that I didn't say it, because I should have been confident enough in my own self to know that if I'm going to say it, I need to tell you the whole thing. And I feel I feel like it's really my duty to tell the whole thing, because that thing literally changed in front of my eyes, and it went from a ape to a hoofed animal and back to an ape. And maybe it was I was in shock. I don't know. I still I still second guess everything in my life right now. I feel energies that I get from places like this and all that, and I don't know. I follow my gut everywhere I go, and if it tells me to get out of there, I do.
I think there's a lot of people that probably feel that way. I talk to a lot of people that are, they'll send me emails and share things they've seen, but they really are kind of scared to come forward because, you worry about what people are going to think and what they're going to say. But, at the end of the day, what you saw. I was talking to a guy, and he never come on the show, but basically he said this thing kind of similar to yours. He saw a Bigfoot creature, and it turned into some kind of grizzly looking bear animal. And he said then it kind of morphed back into this Bigfoot creature, got right up next to him. And he said it really, really shook him up. And he buried it for such a long time because, man, we're seeing things that aren't supposed to be there. But that's why I think these things are more than flesh and blood. I think there's a supernatural aspect to them. And, you're really fortunate, in my opinion, to be here to share that encounter. And man, that's not an easy thing to do. So I appreciate you trusting me with that and coming forward, because people need to know that these things are there and they're real. And it's a strange world, man. There's a lot of things in God's universe we don't understand. But, going back to that encounter, when you saw this thing change, what exactly did it look like?
Um, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain exactly what it did do, because I just remember it looked like maybe a llama or something with a really bad case of like you know how sheep get before you trim them and all their wool and stuff. It looked really woolly like that, but real nasty woolly, and it was like a big llama. Man, I sound crazy, dude. I don't know. Whenever it looked at me, and that's whenever I was hitting the gas, and I just remember looking back, and whenever it started to reach out like that, it had turned straight back into a hairy ape like creature. And I mean, you can take it as what it is on my credibility or whatever, but I'm coming out with that right now, just saying that I was too scared to say that in the very, very, very beginning, because I didn't know exactly how people were going to take me in the first place. And I've got a lot of support from a lot of people on it, and they all tell me, that there's something out there. And yes, and how it affected my life. Well, I used to walk around in the woods at night or anything like that, not worry about anything. I've I've had um, times where I got scared out there, but I never did feel like um, I was really in danger or anything like that. But there for about a year after my face-to-face encounter, and I got stuck down there at the end of the boat ramp after it trailed off. I kept going to the end of the boat ramp. I turned my bike around, and I was facing the way at the entrance where the parking is and all that. And I sat there on the phone with what my ex-girlfriend and all that. I was on the phone with her, and she probably didn't know what the heck was going on. I was screaming, and all I could do was scream and sit there. And the motorcycle was still running. I wasn't going to turn it off. I didn't care if that thing was coming after me. I was getting out of there. And if it would have still been chasing me when I got to that boat ramp, I promise you, on everything I love, I would have rode that motorcycle right into the lake. because I was that scared at that moment. I would have rode that motorcycle right into the lake. And yeah, there was no other cars there. And I mean, that that part right there was like, that's weird to me in the first place. Anytime I go there, there's cars or something there, people there, and there was nobody at the spillway. And after that, I that night on the way back, I promised myself that I was never going in the woods again at nighttime, and I was never going fishing on this lake at nighttime again. And this is one of my favorite lakes in the world that I go to now. But I have had experiences that have reinsured um my confidence that these creatures aren't all bad. And like the most recent thing besides the footprint I found here was I was camping out here with somebody about 3 4 weeks ago, and I went out down this trail right here. I mean, it's 100 yards long right here, and walked out there and I left an apple on a tree. And I figured if they take it, they take it. If they don't, they don't. I picked up all the firewood coming back, and and I even went further than the tree and picked up firewood past it because there wasn't very much to pick from out there. So I got it all, and I had probably two little bundles of it that lasted me all night. And I just threw it on there whenever I needed it. And the next morning, I went out there to check that apple after I woke up, and the apple was still there, but all over the ground was broke up pieces of campfire size pieces of logs, about like 6 inch or maybe smaller, but about that size. And they were all about 18 inches long, but they weren't cut with a saw. And this wasn't just dead limbs. This was some stuff that I don't know how you would have broke it unless you were 12 feet tall. And I'm not kidding about it. I mean, I couldn't walk down the trail without tripping over the wood, and it's not like it came from anywhere. There's no tops of the trees missing. There was, I mean, it was looks like some stuff you'd have a hard time breaking these. I mean, anybody would have a hard time breaking these logs, and it was all campfire size.
Well, I definitely think, man, you're in a hot spot, and it makes you wonder why these creatures are all in a particular area, and maybe sometimes they stay in an area. But what really piques my interest, one of the many things about your encounters, is the fact that the game warden asked you if it maybe was a dog man or what you thought it was, and that somebody else had some kind of strange encounter that night. Man, that is really, really interesting to me. And so that adds credibility to your story for one. But what do you think? I mean, and nobody really, there's no way you can know, but what do you think kept you safe that night, man?
I've been riding Harley Davidsons my whole life. Basically my first bike when I was 18 was a Harley Davidson, and I loved them ever since. And I think that that motorcycle being well maintained and taken care of is what saved my life that night. Because I don't know if that thing would have ate me if he would have caught me. I don't know what that thing's intentions were, but all I remember thinking was my head would fit in its mouth, and it looked like it was made for killing humans, is what I thought at the moment. Yeah, I was in tears and stuff. I mean, it's like it was the most scary. It was the scariest thing I've ever had happen to me in my life. And I've been through a couple wrecks, motorcycle wrecks and all that. And you know, this scared me. Um, it was beyond what I thought I could have been scared. It taught me a lesson. It taught me a lesson that don't think you know everything.
These encounters are extremely traumatic, and I think sometimes people downplay the effect that it has on us because it changes your perspective with the world. I mean, especially one like yours. And I think sometimes, with Bigfoot, you're going to run into a good one and things are going to be okay. And then you're going to run into one like you did that night. And you're really fortunate to be here to share that encounter. Man, what do you think they're doing in that area? Because they seem to be just several of them, in that general vicinity of the lake. But why do you think they're there?
that's what I've really been thinking about, trying to figure out and all that. But I mean, I don't think I'll ever figure it out. But my guess is that this land right here is just the perfect habitat for bears. You've got Falk, Arkansas, about 20 miles to the east. All that, like 20, 30 minutes down the swamp, and Mercer Bayou, and then you got the Sulphur River that is coming up to Lake Wright-Patman Spillway, and all that land has woods that are connected all the way down to Caddo Lake, and all the way up to Oklahoma, and Arkansas's all woods that way and stuff. So there's places that I've been in town in Atlanta, Texas, that I have been. Let's see. I've talked about this one time, but not on a podcast, but on just a comment that I saw a wolf with blue eyes one day behind Brookshire's. And under Brookshire's, there's a creek in Atlanta, Texas. Behind Brookshire's, there's a spot you can walk across on a piece of concrete that's across the creek right there. I don't know if the audio is good enough to pick up, but we got coyotes hollering out here. But but there was a wolf that I encountered out there one time, and there's not supposed to be wolves out here, I don't think, but I was fishing, and it was at nighttime, and I had a headlight on, and I looked over when I was standing on that piece of concrete, and I saw what looked like a big tire, and it looked like a big tire just laying there that I had never noticed before, and I was like, that's weird. Well, all of a sudden it opened its eyes, and there was two bright blue eyes shining back at me, and I remember thinking, I've never seen blue eyes before. I was like, what is this? This is blue eyes? What is going on? Well, it stood up, and when it stood up, I'm 6 foot, like 6'1", maybe on a good day. And man, when it stood up, it was like it would have been right at my chin level or something. These eyes, and I remember seeing it in perfect the light that I was using. It was a big black wolf, and its head was huge, and it stood up, looked at me for about 10 seconds, and slowly turned around and walked off. It faced away from me, and you know, it wasn't in a defensive posture or anything. It wasn't like I was scared or anything. I was just I was the magnificent blue eyes. I remember just thinking this thing is beautiful, but I didn't feel scared at all. But I have had an instance of seeing a hairy, about 5.5, 6 foot tall creature out there too, that was watching me fishing one day. And a buddy of mine I took out there, he heard a whoop out there too, because we came to a big X in the trees, and we were right under the X, and something went whoop like that, and he said, "Oh, I got to get out of here." I said, "Yeah, we better get out of here."
I don't blame you, man. It sounds like that was a good time to leave. And man, there's so much on that property in that area. And you being that close to Falk, Arkansas, there's no wonder that you're seeing these kind of creatures. And it makes me wonder if maybe that's what you had an encounter with that night was the Falk monster. But I don't know, man. It's such a weird world, and there's so much that happens that we just don't understand, man. And going back to your very first encounter, I know we kind of briefly went over that, but why don't you tell the audience about that first encounter in 2021 and walk us through that?
So, my friend had come over, and we were just hanging out talking, and I told him, "Hey, man, let's go over here and chill." We were just sitting on the barn porch right there, and he was facing me, and I was facing the yard, and we were just talking, sitting there on the patio chairs. And when I looked up, I saw something walking across the yard, and I remember saying, "Man, something just walked right behind you, and I'm not going after it." That's what I told him, quote unquote. And shout out to my boy Jarrett. I know I've talked about him before, but I didn't say his name. But that's my boy right there, and he was my neighbor, and he was in there the very first time I saw one, and it happened to be right at the house. It walked right across the field where the chickens were, and stepped over the fence. Where right now I don't know if there's a portal or something, but man, I'll tell you, it seems like there's a lot of activity right there in that corner of that fence where the thing stepped over. And I've walked back there past that fence and walked back into the woods a little bit back there. And it kind of freaked me out. And I never really got past about 200 yards out there in the woods because I always turned around. But there's a highway of a foot trail that has gone all the way to the pipeline, all the way back. There's like a pipeline that goes from Mobile, Alabama, all the way to New Mexico. It goes straight through East Texas and Louisiana and all that. And these trails lead all the way out to that pipeline. I've seen them on the Google Maps and all that. And I don't know, these things, they might, I know for a fact that they're not just physical, they are somewhat supernatural. Um, they have mind spoke with me. Uh, when when I got chased, I later went out into the lake area. I went out to Sherman Landing, and I sat out there and I turned the motorcycle off, no light, nothing. I could see the moon, and it was like a sliver of a moon. And I went out there and I said, I'm too scared to go out in the woods right now, and I'm very scared right now. And I said, Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, whatever you want me to call you. Um, what are you, am I safe being around y'all? And I'm not totally crazy, and I've only heard this 2 times in my life, but something else spoke in my vicinity, in my head, whatever you want to say. It said, "We were not here first. Before us was the lizard people." And I feel crazy, but at the moment when it happened, this is the honest God truth. It looked like the moon had turned into a reptilian eye and closed and opened, and that was it. And I went, okay, that's enough for tonight. And I got on the motorcycle again and I left. And it scared me. I was like, I hadn't really heard about mind speak before that. When I did my research a little bit, I found out that it's not only me that this has happened to. And I just figured, what is making them do this to me? Or maybe is it because I have a new interest in them? Maybe they're trying to show themselves to me. Maybe because I believe that they fully know your intentions. I believe that if I would come out here with a gun on my hip, they would look at me different. Or if I had intentions of coming out here and hurting one or trapping one or anything like that, if I had any of those intentions, I think they would not come around me, period. And that might just be why some people will never see them, because they can tell your intentions. They know that I'm out here, and my ultimate goal with this research that I do is not even research really, because I don't get paid for anything I do. I do this on my own time. It's almost like obsession right now because I mean everybody's I mean, whatever. I had what happened to me, and I'm not letting it go. If I lose friends because I talk about Bigfoot, so what? They weren't friends in the first place. Because if somebody really cares, they're gonna listen to you if you're traumatized by something. And it was traumatic and changed a lot of stuff in my life.
You're using the right words. It's very traumatizing and it's extremely life changing, and it's an aspect of this world that the Bigfoot world that most people never think about, like we said. And you've seen some pretty wild stuff, man. That is a strange piece of property that you're on out there. You know, Mindspeak is one of those things when you first get into this, you don't think about, but it's pretty common. And I've heard a lot of guests on the show talk about that, man. So for one, I don't think you're crazy. I think that there's just a lot that we don't understand. You know, there's one question I forgot to ask you when you mentioned about the wolf, I would be really curious to know, is there a graveyard anywhere on that property around in that area?
The location I'm at right now, I believe, and I don't know this personally as an experience because I haven't gone out looking for the spot that they're talking about, but I believe that there is a spot around this area in the lake that was a burial ground maybe, or Native American type stuff where there was artifacts.
It's really common for whatever reason when you have these kind of encounters with some of these creatures, especially seems like the aggressive ones or Dogman. There's generally a graveyard somewhere in the vicinity. I was just curious. My co-host was in Michigan and he had an encounter really similar to what you talked about. This huge black wolf come out of the tree line, and he said it was, if he'd have been parked next to it, it could have set its head inside of his truck door. It was so massive. And he said when he left, he looked it up, Google Earth, and there was a graveyard in the area just right down the road from where he had that, you know, encounter. So it makes you wonder with all that. And, you know, I think these things, it sounds weird coming out of your mouth, but you could almost call them shapeshifters because that's exactly what I think they do. I think they're a fallen angel or Nephilim that can shapeshift. I think they're definitely more than flesh and blood, and there's a supernatural element. So, man, you guys got everything out there, man. You got the portals, you got all that stuff. So, really interesting area for sure.
It took a long time for me to come to realize that there would be something that might be able to shapeshift. And even though I saw something change right in front of my eyes, I still didn't want to believe that. I still had to put it in a textbook kind of way and make it flesh and blood because I couldn't put it in a category that would suit my mind with this. And I hadn't that moment right there sparked the interest of a million me's, and I did my research on the backgrounds of folklore, the history. I mean, I've watched the Bigfoot 101 with Dave Politis. That dude's awesome. And you know, at that moment, I was like, well, maybe this is persuading some people to actually consider that when you actually come out here to East Texas and Arkansas and all that, and you go camping, and you think you know what's out there, but you know, yeah, some people know, but the people that grew up in the cities and stuff like Dallas and all that, where I'm from, we were taught that that ain't real. It's just a movie, and we should never be worried about something like that. If anything's going to get us, it's a hog or a mountain lion or a bear.
Once you know these things are real and that they're out there, it definitely changes things for you. And, you know, this podcast, somebody out there listening, it could save their life someday because you never know. And, you know, doing what you're doing is important. Talking about this stuff's important because people need to know these things are real and they're out there, and they need to know if they're out in the woods or camping. And you know, David Politis is awesome. He's done phenomenal things for this community. I personally think that some of the missing 411 people are related to these creatures. Not all of them, but I think some of them do. What do you think about that?
There has been people that have gone missing around this lake that have not been found and went under weird circumstances, like, you know, like their money and everything was still there and they were gone. Their phone was still there, they were gone. I heard about a person that told me, he was an older fella that told me about a man that got picked up by his overalls in this this Jackson Creek Park back a long time ago. The guy came over one of these hills out here, and that Sasquatch picked him up, threw him over his shoulder, and walked off with him out in this direction or wherever. And this was his friend that was telling me this, and he was being fed roots and stuff like that, until he had a can of snuff in his pocket, and he had pulled it out. And this, I don't know how reliable this witness story is, but this was a secondhand witness story that, you know, he said that he pulled that can of snuff out and acted like he was getting some to eat, and those Sasquatches grabbed it and put it in their mouth and got sick, and that's how he got away. But I don't know. The man that told me that story, um, I've only met him a couple times, but I had no reason not to believe him when he said it was somebody that he knew. So I've come to the fact that I think that they're okay. I think most of the time, if you come out here and enjoy the woods and enjoy yourself and be camping and fishing and um, do all that, that they will come and they will like to watch you. And they love seeing humans out here interacting with nature. And the the beautiful part about it is that they can be there and you don't even know it, but you ask them to show you, and you have an open mind. If you ask them to show themselves and to show you that they're okay, 99% of the time something will happen.
Well, man, first of all, you're braver than I am after that encounter you had to sit out there in the middle of the woods. But you're right. There's a lot of things to these creatures we don't understand, and I think that they definitely know our intentions. But with all that being said, and we've talked about a lot, but what do you think these things are, man?
I think they are a race of a human type primate, I would say, with supernatural powers. And I'm saying that with 99% confidence that I believe they have supernatural powers. They can communicate with you in our own language, our own brain. And I've never thought about lizard people in my life before that thing said we're not here first. Before us was the lizard people. Were the lizard people who made the pyramids? I don't know. Have we lost technologies? I believe so. Because still to this day, we can't do some of the things that they did 5,000 years ago or however many years ago, because I think we've probably lost more than one civilization before prehistory was, around. Who knows how long ago and how many generations was around before the lizard people or after the lizard people or whatever. And these things it's what keeps me going and searching at this lake. It's what keeps me going out there and finding out the reality of it. And one other thing that I would like to mention about this lake is right across the lake from me over here on the north side of it. I'm on the south side. On the north side of it, there is a place in Maud called Berry Farm. Berry Farm has um, it's like a campground almost, and you can park your RV there or whatever. And there's a boat ramp, and there's a spot out there called Sasquatch Landing. And I thought, well, it would be fun to go out there with the night vision. And I had put the night vision. It was just some Amazon night vision, it wasn't like military kind of stuff. I had set it on the dashboard and looking out the window, and I just kind of creeped down the road real slow out there. And it was at this time, it was probably between 1 and 3 in the morning. I mean, it was raining outside. It was dark. I didn't have to work the next day. I was like, I'm going to go out and I'll have a good time. So there's about a 4-second clip on the SD card that I found months later after I took the video. I replayed it and noticed that between these two trees when I was turning was 3 entities that were changing. They were shape shifting. And if you look on my YouTube account, it will be under there's some like annoying music behind it, which I shouldn't have put on there, but it's cool. Just turn the volume down on that one. But it's under watch out at Lake Wright Patman for the ultra terrestrials. And it was at Berry Farm. And I have still shots of the little 4-second clip of frame by frame how these things changed and they look like at one point they have like sun rays coming out from them. At one point they look like they got a big beak and they're like an owl. And the other one, they have like giraffe like horns with almost like a crocodilian type head, and they're this is crazy, I know, but the evidence is there. It's all on there. Just check it out if you do get the chance, because I would love to know what these things are. But there's a child of it, whatever it is. There's a child, a mother, and a father figure, I guess you'd say, a male and a female, and they shapeshift from reptilian to I can't even explain some of the things. It was like a sun. They almost look like there was rays of light coming from their head.
There's a guy that came on my show from North Carolina, and he had an encounter with some kind of either Bigfoot Dogman creature while I was out camping in North Carolina. But the odd thing about his, and the reason I bring this up, is these things turn from some kind of creature to an orb, right? And then the orbs floated into the middle of their tent, and his dad saw it. When he looked up, he saw what looked like a sun god face, a small one and a big one in these orbs. And he said that the atmosphere changed. It got extremely, scary, obviously. But his dad called on the name of Jesus, and these things left. And so when you said that, it reminded me of his encounter because it was really similar to what he was describing. So, man, who knows? But I want to throw that in there because that's really, really strange, man.
I'll tell you what, I do believe that praying will save you. If you're out here and you're face to face with something and you're scared of it, and if you have a higher power and you pray to that higher power, I believe these things can receive that energy and feel that you are doing that, and they will not hurt you. And I don't think they have hurting us on their mind all the time is the thing. I think whenever I came up on that one, I had a mask on, with like a skull face pattern on it too, for because it was cold outside and I was riding, and it saw that. It didn't even see my face whenever I pulled up next to it. It saw that, jumped back all the way to the grass, changed in front of my eyes, jumped back to the pavement, and changed in front of my eyes again, and chased me. Yeah.
There's so much in God's universe we just do not understand, man. We don't. And I don't know if we ever will. And, I think that, you run into the wrong Bigfoot, you're going to have a bad day. The wrong circumstance, you're going to have a bad day. But there's also lots of encounters where people just walk away and they don't have anything, bad to them. But it's such a strange world, man. And I appreciate you taking the time out to share those encounters with my audience. And, I would love to hear if anything happens in the future, man. But I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I've always commented on Joe Rogan's podcast. I've always told him, come out here and see a Sasquatch for yourself, and then tell me that you don't believe in it, because I think the only thing fishy about that man right there is that he doesn't believe in Sasquatch. He doesn't believe in Bigfoot. And I don't know. He has to believe. I don't know. Somebody's putting that in his ear.
Well, I think he probably believes, man. He just doesn't want to say it. I think there's a lot of people like that are just closet believers, and they just don't want to talk about it. He's got a really big platform, so who knows, man. But please stay in touch. And I thoroughly enjoyed that, man. That was really amazing. And be really careful out there, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me in Steamboat tonight. I love doing this show. Such a strange world, and he's really fortunate to be able to share those encounters and to be here to share those encounters. And I hope you're enjoying these episodes and just hanging out with us. But if you've got an encounter you'd like to send me, you can send it to me by email at mysteriesunknownpodcast@gmail.com. Guys, I'm going to say it, especially after an encounter like that, stay prayed up. It's so important. We'll see you in the next episode.